Calling to the stand, Debbie Greenwich. Let's see.
Miss Greenwich, would you describe for us the prank call you received on February 5th, 1991 at 7:47 p.m.?
You mean you know the actual time of that phone call? Gosh, you guys are good at what you do. How'd you do that?
We'll get to that later. Do you think you'd be able to explain to the court in your best words how the hoax occurred on that particular evening?
Yes, sir.
Well, what happened?
Well, I had put a roast beef in the oven and I was watching Dan Rather, waiting for Murphy Brown to come on, and it was then that I heard the phone ring.
And?
And I said, hello.
Standard method of answering a call? Explain what you heard after you said hello.
A man's voice.
And what did he say?
He said, how are you, Miss Greenwich? He sounded very nice. And he asked me why I wasn't at work that day, and I said, well, you fired me. And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, you called me last night. He said, I didn't call you. What are you talking about? Are you sure it was me? And I said, well, it sounded like you. He said, well, I don't know who called you, but it wasn't me. It must have been someone impersonating me, so you're not fired. Would you please come in? And I said, yes, sir.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Would the defense like to examine the witness?
I would, Your Honor.
Oh, look at him, look at him. Kind of cute.
Your Honor, before I ask any questions of this witness, I would like to point out the fact that I withheld an objection that I could have raised during Mr. Condonley's previous examination of this witness.
Objection!
You are correct, Mr. Condonley. Objection is what I would have said, but I chose not to.
Overruled.
You go on, Mr. Stein. Come on.
Thanks, Judge. After I would have said objection, I would have asked the same question that Miss Greenwich asked. How did Mr. Condonley know the exact time of that phone call?
I don't know.
Just 1 second, Miss Greenwich. I just find it peculiar. Someone had to give him that information. Is Mr. Jason Irving involved in this?
Objection, Your Honor. That statement is questionable.
It certainly is. I asked it in the form of a question, didn't I?
I don't see how knowing the date and time has anything to do with Jason at all.
Overruled.
Come on, Mrs. Stein. Continue.
Certainly, my dear, Your Honor. Ms. Greenwich, you testified that the voice on the other end of the phone sounded exactly like the voice you heard the night before. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
No difference.
No, sir.
This man must be good with voices, right? I mean, he could possibly even work in your office. Ms. Greenwich, is your boss in this courtroom today? Because if he is, and if he is any kind of an employee, he wouldn't have any reason to fire you if you were to possibly point him out to the court if he were here. Not saying that he is, but if he was?
I don't know.
You mean you don't know what he would do if you were to point him out to the court?
Right.
Well, would it be possible for you to tell the court which person in this room is your boss?
Yes, sir.
Does that mean, yes, sir, I know I'm under oath, or yes, sir, he is in this office?
Objection!
Overruled. How many times? Sit down. Go ahead, Mrs. Stamp.
What I meant was, yes, sir, he's here.
In that case, would you please point out to the court which person is your boss? Are you pointing to the man with the mustache seated behind the plaintiff?
No, sir. Jason Irving.
Ooh, she got it.
No further questions.